Okay, so I think we should start and then as people will join, we can see that. But just to confirm, can you see my screen now?
Yes, can see.
Yes, I can.
Okay. So welcome. This has been a while due to my summit travels, but we are back. This is our 99th PC Open discussion. There were a lot of questions posted during that time. I'm trying to cover some of them this week, and then so we can discuss what we want to do uh, going forward on the next week. Do we want to talk about what's new? I hope everybody would have seen already because it's been a while. But if you think that's important, we can continue that from the next week. Otherwise, if there's anything else that seems important, we'll kind of decide that as we go through it. Okay, so let's go through some discussion. When you register, if you are not a default attendee, this link get updated by tomorrow for the next meeting. And if you are here and not a default attendee, then you can drop your name and email in the chat, and you'll be by default invited for the future meetings, and you don't have to register every week. Otherwise, this page will get updated tomorrow with the next meeting invite. So without wasting much time, let's get into the questions directly. And as you know, I don't use names, but if you're here and you have asked that question, we can surely talk about it. So the first question that popped up on the Microsoft form that's available on the same page is around the copy a company without transactional data. There's a blog referred on that question, which is around that this blog talks about it. And let me see if I find that somewhere, that blog. Here it is. The blog says that can I copy a company without transactional data? And it says that uh, nope, not possible in the base business central. Customization would be required. And then there is a configuration package where you can download the data from a company and then kind of import it back using the same configuration package in the different company if required, so on and so forth. Then this is a legacy nav thing which exists in business central but via powershell but only works on prem, where you can import or export a particular company. The only rule with this is that your company, sorry, the database that you're copying from and the database that you're copying to should have the same object set slash same extension in the business central word so that the data can be copied. And here you can choose which company you would like to copy. Do you want to copy the global data? Do you want to copy all the companies? Do you want to just export out one particular company? In the NAV word and specifically on 2017, I guess that was added into the menu and then they removed it, but it was working till BC14. I haven't used it in Business Central, but we have a project where I'll be using it in Business Central, but I'm pretty sure it works on-prem. So there's no way to do it on SaaS. But then let's think about it, how you can copy a particular company without transactional data. Now, this has been a debate for a while, not just in Business Central, but it was something that seems to be a thing which was always requested but had some problems even in the NAV word back old days. So let's log into a Business Central environment. This is my Business Central SaaS environment. And let's think about that if I have to create a new company where I would like to copy certain master data more or less without transaction. And there are ways available in Business Central with assumption that you know what tables you would like to copy. And that's the only difference that that you need to have. You need to know. So what happens is if you go to configuration worksheet, which is a part of the rapid start package, more or less, Here you see this default one. So, okay, let me see if I see. Okay, let me create a company. That'll make it easy. Let's create a company using a wizard. And let's say this is my test company and I don't want any data. And with this wizard, the new test company should be created. Now that company at this moment will be empty other than what automatically gets sets from your company initialization. Anything that is part of company initialization will be set into it. Uh, I don't remember exactly the code unit number now, but earlier it used to be code unit 2. Is it still code unit 2? Anybody knows? I can check it somehow. Yeah. So the company initialized code unit is still exists and that gets activated as soon as you create a new company. Now what gets set up onto this, it initializes the source setup tables, source codes, standard text, report selections, and all these things will be automatically set as this company gets created here. So this data will come automatically in a business central or even in a dynamic snap company whenever it gets created based on whatever the code is defined here. And it's kind of setting them empty at this point if you look at it, just creating those setups. But then the source codes are set up automatically as soon as you create a new company and the initialization code is kicked off. Other than that, no data is created if you choose the no data option while creating company as adjusted here. So let's switch to this company. And once it gets switched, let's go into the configuration worksheet option. And that's where your knowledge about the product comes into the picture, that you exactly know what tables you would like to copy, which holds your master data or setup data, uh, rather than copying the whole company. And if you know that list, as we just saw in the Kronos company, there's some default configuration that Microsoft have. If you have to utilize that info, you can do that. Let me open that sideways. Okay, let open that. Here we go back to configuration worksheet. Once you are here on a new company, it is supposed to be empty and it is empty. What you can do is you can populate the tables that you would like to copy from one of the company in the same database. You can do it manually, as you can start keying in things here, or there are some batches here where you can say get tables. There are some default filters that only include companies which have some data, uh, related tables, dimension table, and license tables only. But just for the demo, let's say I want tables between table number 1 and table number 10. It'll just run through that filter, whatever you have applied, and it'll load all the tables that are there. If you are sure that you need, let's say, customer price group, but you will also need the related tables to it, you can always use the built-in functionality for get related table. It'll scan based on the field table relation. In the field table, there is a relation. If there is a related table like this one was there, it automatically pulled it up and added it into the list of tables that you want. In the same way, if you want to do it for shipment methods, let's try that. There's nothing on that. Is there anything related to currency? Oh, GL account was added. So you can utilize the power of built-in functions which are there. And if you remember, and if you have used Rapid Start in the past, you will see that the same action is available there. Now, if you look at it right now, there are no records other than the standard text code. So that might be part of the code unit 2. So let's remove this. Once you have it and you would like to copy the data from one of the existing company that you have, you can just do a copy data from company. As soon as you choose this, it'll show you a wizard where you can choose which company you would like to copy it from other than the current company. You choose that company. It tells you how many records are there in the source table, which means in the Cronus USA table, company, how many records are there in these selected tables. Then you can select one or multiple based on what you want to copy, and then use the action of copy data. It's a confirmation, you say yes, and that data gets automatically copied from those selected table into your new company, and you'll see the number of records are created here. But that's just not it. Let's try to populate that and see that in the payment terms to have something now. And it just brought exactly the data that was there in the Cronus USA. So you can do that. You can copy a company, the setup data or any kind of data, more or less, with two situation that your source company should not have any data because it will not override any such data which already exists. That's one thing. The second thing is you should be able to create the list of tables that you would like to bring forward from the other company. There is no built-in way where Business Central tells you that these all are your setup tables or these all are your master tables and these all are your ledger tables and other tables or transaction tables. That list is on you. Once you create that, then you can utilize this feature to copy data from one company to other company within the Business Central environment. So that's the only way where you don't need any customization per se. As in, even if you go to the route of customization or writing a code, you will still have to know which tables you want to kind of bring it forward to the other company. Now, if you look at it here, Microsoft did provide us some of the configuration worksheet, which are used by Microsoft when in Docker. This is not the whole list. This is just a sample data of saying, oh, if it's a sales company, then the master data that I'll group is customer, vendors, and items. For chart of account, that group, I would need GL account. Then these are my setups. These are my posting groups, and these are my sales stack setups and other things as you see here. You can make it as detailed as you want. You can make it as simple as you want, but this is the only way where you can copy data from an company to another company without writing any single line of code and just based on configuration. Any questions, thoughts on that before we move past that? Okay. In that case, let's try to switch to the other question that we have, which is around what is the limitation of team member license? Now, when I read this question today, I was searching for the latest edition of the licensing guideline, which I guess was released early this week sometime. So there are two documents, and let me see if I can find them. One of them is this, which is updated on, it says October 2022, but it's actually updated in November, I guess. Oh no, this one is October, and then let me find the other one. I've saved it somewhere. This is on-prem licensing guideline, and then this is the November guideline for SaaS. So these are the recent updates from Microsoft around the licensing guideline. And I have always been confused about the team member user. So if somebody knows it better than me, for sure, I'm pretty sure people will know better than me on this area. Just correct me where I'm going wrong. So what has been changed from the last licensing guideline to this licensing guideline? For the team member, Microsoft have added these 5 new tables, which was not there earlier. This is kind of the change log of first change. In the device license, they added the version compatibility language, and in the team member license, they have added these 5 new tables into it. These three are around the data search feature, which is a new feature in Business Central 21, and then these are related to that, I guess. But let's see where the team member license is. Yeah. So the team member license is for a user who is not tied to a particular function, who doesn't need to work on Business Central, but would like to have access to do things on a limited scope. A team member license user is allowed to read any data that is stored in any table in Business Central. So read writes are available throughout the system. That's one thing. And then the write access is limited to 3 objects. And these uh, tables are listed in Appendix A, which, oh, these are not, this list is now counted against the 3 objects table. So these tables are already included. And then Microsoft does a good job of when that was added here. So all these table will have automatically re the following table does not count toward the maximum of 3 table in the Business Central on-premise license. Oh, anybody know that for SaaS is there a different license or different metrics for team members? I'm not sure about that part. Now that seems a pretty extensive list. If all this is allowed, let's search for it again.
Saurabh, my experience is you can modify some of those things, but you maybe can't create. Um, so I did a recent
Oh,
implementation where the customer had Teams licenses
hmm,
primarily for people to update purchase invoices and then go through the approval process. And they were able to change or modify the purchase invoice, but they couldn't create one, a brand new one.
okay.
Was
Oh,
what was kind of one difference. And you pretty much can't post because you can't use the general ledger, it says, right? So,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, the posting throughout the system is
right.
restricted
And
because of this.
yeah, and I think the on-premise Teams users a little more, it's not as restrictive because they did, I guess, haven't control it as easy as they can online, is what I've seen a little bit. That maybe you can do some things on premise with a Teams license you can't do in the cloud.
Oh, yeah, that helps because it's always confusing to me what they can and what they cannot do.
Yeah, but you can read everything. And I don't know if you saw in the last cumulative update 21.1, now evidently users can read Business Central data in Teams
Yeah,
without
and
a
that doesn't
Business
require a
Central
license.
license.
Yeah,
Right.
right. That was a recent announcement. So I'll have to test it out once I have the teams configured for my demo environment. But that's interesting, as in how they will restrict. As in read only is okay, but
The,
then they cannot do anything else other than
the,
reading.
the, the other thing I've seen is that on some Teams licenses, you can do quite a bit with an ISV product because maybe the ISV products properly, they're not properly able to check the difference between the licenses or something.
Hmm.
So I've seen with some ISVs, you can do quite a lot with the Teams license as long as you're staying within what the Business Central base functionality allows you to do. But like you could maybe write and do things in the custom tables or in the ISV tables.
Okay, yeah, that helps because this question has been asked so many times, and I'm always confused to answer it correctly. Because, as you said, it says that these are include a table automatically, but it says sales and purchase tables,
Right.
which which seems odd. But because yeah, if all these tables have right permission, I guess there will be very few customers who will need the license, the full license in that case, because this is a pretty It includes warehouse, sales and purchase, warehouse, and everything more or less, emailing. But yeah, I guess as Dan is saying, you like to experience it and test it out with a user because at
Yeah,
least I have been always confused about this for sure.
yeah, I would recommend that. That's what we've done is get a Teams license and see what you can do with it because it's kind of confusing.
Yes. Transaction created are not considered indirect. Transaction created by team member user are not considered indirect write access if the transaction is needed by a full user as in input to perform the job function and transaction are processed individually, not in batch. Hmm. For sure, there is a lot of confusion around this, and I guess anybody here have utilized the team member license other than Dan and anyone else? Okay. In that case, let's move to next question. And I guess Rishikesh is here. Rishikesh, what's this your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, sounds good. And people who have done or worked on AL in Business Central 14, because that was the only time where this was the only way to do certain things, and I'll tell you in detail in a bit. But this was the only way back then in Business Central 14.
Oh,
So in Business Central 14, because it was a hybrid environment, you can have CAL and you can also have AL. The beauty of AL back then was that it can read CAL, it can understand customizations on CAL. So if you modify for whatever reason, if you have to modify an object in CAL, the AL was able to understand that modification. But it didn't work vice versa. So let's say you had an ISV in Business Central 14, which was implemented as an extension. Great, you can do that because ISV can also read, or the AL in general can read what CAL is doing, whatever the changes are there in CAL. But if, as a partner, you had to customize that ISV and you were not able to find events because the ISVs were not releasing the events that needed, you're kind of stuck in that zone where you cannot create an extension even if you have developers who know this because the events were not available. And back then, the ISV partners and in general partners were pretty new to this. So they didn't knew if you ask a question that I'll need an event there, and they'll say, what does that mean? You know, give me the code where you want me to add it, and then I'll check the feasibility and all. So what used to happen back then is people will customize that process using CAL code, and the only way to read values what the record references and the field ref in general. So let's understand why that works in an AL model first, and then we'll see if that's needed. So when we create table extensions in the Business Central world, a new table gets created physically in this in your SQL server. There is a separate table for your extension.
yes, correct. Yes.
But if you come back to AL code, or if you are in BC14 and go back to your field table, because that table is super important, or object table, all the object information either from the Microsoft extension or from an ISV extension or from your custom extension was available there in the field table. In the same way, when you are on Business Central and there's no by default page on the fields, which is weird, I'll have to create. I don't think they added it yet. No, they didn't. So if you create a page on a field table, you will still be able to see the consolidated field list of a table, which is from Microsoft table fields, ISV fields, and as well as custom field. So the field table was able to kind of merge all those field structure and show you a consolidated view, and still it happens in Business Central. When it comes to the record reference, that all works on these virtual entities that are created in Microsoft, the field table, the object table, which are not the physical table in the nav or in Business Central Word. These are these virtual tables that help you to kind of see a cumulative view of all tables and all field in your Business Central environment. So utilizing that, you can do that. Now, how effective it is based on what requirement you have and how you would like to use it. Now, just for kind of everybody's understanding, whenever you have to read or even modify or do anything on a field which is not belonging to your extension, you will have to create a dependency of that extension on your extension. Let's me create a project and let's see that. Oh, sorry, I'm sharing the wrong screen. Okay, here I am. Okay, let me connect it to my SaaS environment, which is, I still have the Summit environment. Okay, and let me connect it to here and let me download symbol. Any extension that you're building is surely relying on the symbols. That's how your extension understand the Microsoft objects. Your system, your extension understand Microsoft fields, tables, code unit, or any other object for that matter. These symbols that you see here are the only reason your extension is able to modify the behavior of the central environment. That's where we see what tables and what fields are there. In the same way, if you have to do something on an ISV, in your app.json, you'll have to define that inside your dependencies. And then once you define those in dependencies, you'll have to again do the same process of downloading symbol, where the symbol related to that ISV app will also be downloaded so that your extension can understand that ISV, the schema of that ISV. Now, I hope this Summit environment have some extension because I did some demos there. Let me see. Yes, there is 1, 2, 3. Okay. So in this case, let's switch to the right company where there will be some data so that we can test that out. All these three extension add two fields on item ledger entry table, if I'm not wrong. And then those tables were utilized to do some kind of demo, which I was doing. This is Cronus USA. Okay, let's go to item ledger entries and see. Okay, so while this is loading, help and support, and let's look at the data on this page. Okay. So based on this, it doesn't seem that there is a custom field on this because I did not add them on pages. But if you look on your page inspection, you see that there are these three extensions other than the Microsoft extension, which are pertinent extension. Extension 1, 2, and 3. If you look at the field level, there will be some field, I guess, ext, something like that. Yeah, ext1 int, ext1 text, ext2 int, 2 text, and 3 int and 3 text. Those are the 6 field coming from those 3 extension that I have added on item ledger entries. Now the question is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rishikesh, is to read the value of this field without taking a dependency on this extension.
Yes, read also or even modify also.
Read also or modify also. Okay, I guess you can do that both the ways. As in, this might not be a good example of doing it on item ledger entry, but once you can read it, you can also change it. That's not a problem. Okay. So we are here. Let's utilize the same snippet, which is here, and let's change this to ILE. Let's extend the item ledger entries. Now, the only reason that the the auto completion shows you all these Microsoft table is because you have downloaded the symbol of Microsoft objects, which are the
Yeah,
default.
that
Yeah. Now, what I'm trying to do, Rishikesh, is I'm trying to add that field, one of those field, into this page without taking a dependency of it, and then we'll see how that value can be fetched up. So let's say
okay.
I would like to bring that extension one field into it. So the first thing I'll do, because it's a temporary field, just visible on the page, I'll create that value and I hope that's an integer. Let me see. Yes, it's an integer. Okay, so now I have a field which is extension one integer. And then because I have to show it, so let's add on the layout and let me know if I have to zoom something. I'll do that. And I'll add it on the last of my control one. What is my control one? Control one is the repeater on the item ledger entry page. So
Yeah,
it'll be
that
on the last field on that page. What I'm adding at the last is my T page field, and the field that I'm adding is a variable called ext1 value. Okay. Now understand this at this point that the field name is here ext1 int. If I try to search it, let me try to do that. I'll only see ext1 value because this is a variable. Other than that, I don't see it because I don't have a dependency to that particular extension. Now, once this is done, the field will be visible, but there is no data at this moment on that field. It'll be empty. So let's try to extend the get record so that anytime this page runs, the on after get record will surely run. And I can do what I want on that, which will start from my record reference. Okay, so what you can do with the recref, you can surely point it on a table. And then when you do a get table, you will have to pass a record to it, which it will point to. So what I can do that it passes to the record, which is the current record that's in the page itself. Now, once it points to that record, it knows everything about that record. Now, I can, using this record ref, I can get a value of a field, but for that, I'll need a field number, and the return that this method will give me is a field reference. It'll not give me the value of it. It'll not give me anything. It'll give me a field ref for this. So I can do a field and then I'll have to go back and check the field number, which is 50,000. So I can come back and say, okay, whatever is on 50,000, store it on my field ref or okay, field ref. And then my field ref is my field reference. Now, at this point, the field reference holds the pointer to that field that you have specified, which is 50,000 at this moment. Now, using the field ref, you can do all kind of things. You can calculate it if it is a flow field. You can get the caption of it. You can also get the value of it using the value parameter. There should be one value. Now here, Rishikesh, I don't know what your requirement is, but use this pretty wisely. If you are trying to set that value, again, the value parameter is used. If you are trying to get the value parameter is used, depending on what you pass inside the value. If you pass nothing, it will return you the current value. If you pass something, it sets that field value.
Okay.
Okay. So if I do a value blank, that means it will return me the value of that field. And that I would like to assign it to this variable that I've added into the page. Once this is done, that's all I need to show that field on the page without taking a dependency on that extension. Now remember this, when you are going to the route of recref and field ref, they might be a little bit slower than taking dependencies. I'm just showing
Okay.
it because it was a question, right? But in
Yeah.
general,
Yeah.
if it is surely cannot be done other way around, in any other way, then use this route. Otherwise, think about it if a dependency will make sense. So at this point, when I'll publish this, this page will have a new field after this called ext1, whatever that field is, ext on value, and we'll see the value associated to it. Just to keep it simple, I'll change the runtime page ID to 32. No, not 32, 38, which is my item ledger entries page. And let's see what happens with that. So let's do a publish of this. It should go back and hope it doesn't ask me for authentication because I'll have to search for it otherwise. And this should get published into this environment and it should load the page 38 again once that get published. But if it is not a business related thing, registration, if you can, and it's up to you, if you can tell us the requirement why you need something like this, that'll be great for everybody's understanding. If it is related to a customer's requirement, let's not talk about it. That's up to you.
No, there is no such a specific requirement. I just wanted to understand whether it is possible or not. So
But it's
it's
possible
not like
because
a yeah.
yeah, till the point there are virtual tables available that are there in the environment, you'll always get a consolidated view and you'll get a value like this. All right. This value will
Yeah.
always
Yeah.
match to what you see on your inspect agent data, which is your default page inspection tool. And let's filter it out here. ext1 on this record is 22. On this record is 35, 66, 98, 91, and 18, and so on and so forth. The only difference is we didn't took a dependency. If you would have taken a dependency, it would have without writing any single line of code, I could have just done this, and the field would have been added into the page. But as Rishikesh is saying, he just wanted to see is it possible or not. It is. Based on how you utilize this, there is actually a code unit. I don't remember the number. I guess it was 701 or something like that. Let's see. Which helps you in dealing with the record ref, field ref, and record IDs also. Data type management. This code unit helps you in all of these kind of matters. If you would like to get the record ref and the field ref, then you just need to pass the variant and the field number and where of record ref will automatically return you a record reference and a field reference if you have the record variant and the field that you want. And there are other methods which will surely help you when you're dealing with record ref and field ref. So surely take a look on 701 whenever you are dealing with record reference and field reference and see what these methods can help you, because there are quite a few methods which will help you to bring it as it is.
Right.
Okay. Anyone else have any
Yes.
questions on this? Okay. While we're talking, I guess Brijesh have a question. How we can know if a customer has bought license for which app? Brijesh, can you help us as in explain that question before we move further? And Brijesh is not here now. Okay, he left. Okay. Not a problem. So we'll move further and see what the next question looks like. Now, this is an installation related question saying I have a Windows 11 home version and I would like to install BC and face the issue with IIS setup components. The components were rolled back, web server component, and this error message. I install IIS but still get the error, and please help me out on this. Now, I don't know how many times I have said it. I did even record a video around it, but before you start installing software, anything, and not just Business Central, you should surely check the system requirement for it. Okay. The first word of the statement is surely makes me worried that what is the approach that this person is taking, because home edition of Windows are not does not support Business Central, and I nor they support the Docker installation. So remember this while you're, and I'll have to find that document if I can easily. But the home editions of Windows are not supported with Business Central in general. I'm pretty sure nothing have changed till now. I hope so. If something have changed, that's completely new for me. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure that you should. I'm not finding the Microsoft link, but I'm pretty sure there's one, and I can find and share it with everyone later. But it only supports the Pro, Enterprise, and Education version. The Home Edition is not supported the with the Business Central installation. So in any of the component, I don't think other than the client, which is the browser, you can uh, install any other component on a Home Edition. So keep that in mind, because the first thing that kind of popped up when I looked at this question today morning was, oh, maybe the path is long because the error says that cannot, find the dependency installation and all, which is another common issue, that you store the DVD in a pretty long path, and while copying the path from DVD, it has problems because there's a limit of how long the file path can be during the installation option. So I thought that's a problem. But then when you read the first line of it, it says home version, which is surely not supported with any version of Business Central for sure. And I'm pretty sure for Dynamics Nav also, but I'll have to go and check about Nav. But for Business Central, home editions of Windows are not supported. Any other thoughts or questions on this before we move past this?
Sort of. I'm not pretty much sure about this, but then there is some way through which I actually installed in my home edition for Business Central, like on-prem. Hello, can you hear me?
Okay. Did you were able to install the? Yeah, I can.
Yes. So what happens is there are some I don't like I cannot find the history with me right now. I found one blog where they have mentioned that you could actually there are some dependencies using command prompt. We have to um, run those dependency files, which is already there in IS folder already. So I'm just looking for it. If I find it, then I'll definitely share it here. But then if once we do that, then this error goes away. The web server component issue. This is the exactly same issue that I actually faced when I was trying to install in my system, home system.
Okay, that's interesting. I never heard of it. But yeah, if there is something, why not? Let's, if you find something, that'll be great for the person who is trying it. But as for the Microsoft documentation, and I'm just going that route, it's kind of not supported as for the documentation, the home edition, and that's what I'm, I
Yes,
guess
as per documentation,
I'm
yes,
talking
it is
about.
not. It's supported. It's not supported. I think there would be certain limitations with this features also. which I have not explored yet. But then it's installed successfully, and I was able to run my local host into my browser. So yeah, that was my experimenting thing.
Okay, that sounds fun. Okay, anyone knows about it now? We can surely talk about it. If you don't, then we'll move to the next question. And if I'm breaking, let me know. I can switch to a different network if needed. But okay, so let's move to the next question. I did talk about the installation, I guess, in a video. So, and that'll surely detail out what Microsoft says about it, as in whatever the Microsoft steps are. So anybody who's interested in getting into details of that part can surely look at my channel into this video around installing this on your own machine. This is Business Central 20, but I'm pretty sure it details around what are the operating system supported, what is the minimum memory you need, what are the server components, and how much memory you need. So all those details will be there on this video, starting from your SQL Server requirement, your operating system requirement, and other things. While we are on this topic, I don't know how many of you notice and how many of you use Business Central on-premise version, but just FYI, with the latest release, Microsoft have discontinued the service tier panel. So if you're installing it and you don't see a Business Central administration component installed, don't go and reinstall or repair your installation. I guess this was announced a year ago. And this component that I'm talking about that you see here,
Yes, right,
this
right. Yes, yes, correct.
yeah, yeah, it's gone. Okay. So if you are doing it on Business Central 21 on your client installation or on your local machine, don't get worried if you don't see this because this is no longer supported starting Business Central 21, and you will have to utilize your expertise on PowerShell to
Yep.
modify the behavior of your service. Okay, so that was a good point, I guess, that I remember here. Now, next question is something that I would like some help on because I'm a very limited knowledge on the permission side. Now, here's an example of where there's a customer who's still using 2009 R2. Not surprised. One of their user had a newer exe, opened the database on a newer client and converted the database, which is just two OKs, I guess. Two or three OK confirmation that you have to give. The question is how you restrict the users to convert database to the newer version. And I thought it can be done from SQL, but I guess if they remove the permission of DB owner and just grant the permission of data reader and data writer on SQL, then user cannot access the object table more or less. So is there a way to stop users from not allowing them to convert the database to a new version in NAV 2009 era? Anybody knows about it? Because I have no clue about it. As in, is there a permission in NAV 2009 which can limit it? I don't know.
For super user, there is no permission.
But he's saying that he was trying from SQL and he said if I remove the DB owner permission from for that user on that database, then they can't do anything. Like if I remove the DB owner permission on a 2009 database, I'm saying for that particular database and just give data reader and writer, then the error is that they cannot read. You don't have permission to read the object table. If he keeps the DB owner permission, they can do everything that they want. And I didn't ask about the user permission, but I'm hoping non-super users. But then they also get right to convert the database. Is there a way where I can say that, oh, if the user don't have access to these 10 objects in dynamic snap, then they will not be able to convert it? No? Okay, I'll have to scan that. I'll have to install 2009 and see what I can do. I for sure don't remember this on top of my head. Okay, again, this is Rishikesh, I guess. How you can add a file from base64 string received from an API to a media data type, preferably in document attachment. Is that you, Rishikesh? Reading it correctly? I don't know if Rishikesh.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't get much time, but I knew that there is something, and I haven't tested it out. But if it's a
एक
urgent
चीज
need,
मैंने ट्राई किया. I did one thing. I created a temporary file on server. Since it was a on-prem installation, I was able to, and then I created InStream from that file, and then I passed on to document attachment, and that is how it was done. But I didn't want to create file actually, physical file on server, and
makes sense.
then yeah. So that is why I
Okay.
asked this question.
So there are two ways. I guess if you go back into my YouTube channel, look for the past recording. We did a session, plus there is an article about it on my blog where we did talk about, but it is not getting stored in document attachment. We were doing that test on a temporary table. Okay, that was maybe a year old now. You might
Yeah,
have to
that
find it.
that I yeah, I've
Okay.
read that blog, sir. Yeah.
Okay. Now, when you look at the product DVD, and this is very interesting that you should always look at. Let me zoom this in here so that we all can see it together. Where is my view menu? Remember, as in, if you had been, if you have been exposed to NavWord, remember the rules of the game remain same. You should always try to see, as we used to do in the NAV word, that is this something that Microsoft have done? And if yes, then can I kind of take
Yes, yes, right.
help of that from that code and utilize it, right? Now with Business Central, yes, it's an app word, but in your product DVD, there is always a folder called application, which have all the apps released by Microsoft plus their source code. There's nothing hidden at this moment. Even going a step further, Microsoft have released all their code on GitHub as a public library access. Anybody can do a mod, submit a pull request to Microsoft, and if everything looks good, they will make it part of the product. So it went till that extent rather than just in the people or the community who use Business Central. Now, what I remembered and where I went back to is APIs version 2. And whenever you go inside an extension, you see two folders, one is source and one is test. The source gives you the app file, but also gives you the source code here, which you can extract. And then let me open it on VS Code. And let's go back here. And okay, here it is. All right. This is the API extension from Microsoft. Okay. API version 2. You should not look into the version 1 discussion. You should surely look at the version 2 because that's the recent version of the APIs. Now, when you look at it, there are other APIs that you may not need and you might not want to look at it right now. But in the Pages API, there is actually an API called attachments. Okay. The attachment API, if you look at it, writes into the attachment entity buffer, which then writes into the document attachment table. This is a buffer table for the API transaction. But anything that you put into this API, if you post using this API, eventually it'll get written into the attachment table. Okay.
Okay.
Now let's understand what this table holds, the temporary table schema looks like. So let's go back to the other window and go into the base app and let's search for this. Okay, did I copy it? Yeah, I did. Let's search for this. Let's remove 701. Here's the buffer table. Now what the buffer table stores, it says created date and time when it was created, the file name, the type, is it an image, PDF, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, email, and others. What is the content in a blob? What is the document type that you would like to attach it to? Which is, what are those options? The options are journal, sales order, sales code, sales credit memo, sales invoice, purchase order. If your document falls into this, then great, because you cannot extend this enum because this is extensible set as false. You'll have to kind of utilize the same behavior and create your own buffer tables if needed. But if it is one of these, then you're good there. What else? The ID. What is the ID? The ID of this record. And then the document ID is the ID of the source document. So let's say if you are adding it on the sales code, go into sales code and check the ID of that document. Like every record in Business Central have an ID, which we all know now, I guess by now. So if you look at the system ID, yeah, this field, this is the unique ID for this particular record, which will be different from this and any other record for that matter. So that's the next field that it is asking for, so that it knows that what document type it, and based on document ID, will be able to get the unique record. And then it should get added here utilizing the, let me see here, API attachment, attachment API, which is this. Now, when you think about it, why this API is a separate entity, and when you go and see a set of references to this object, you will see it is being utilized on every other main API page, like sales code. That is a part of this attachment API. And same in the sales order, there's a part of attachment API, which means if you are creating a sales order or a sales code or any other document which is listed here, you can also add your attachment in the document itself. So while creating sales order, as you can add lines, which is a very common thing. Let me see, where is that lines? One is, I should compile it and then it makes more sense. But yeah, on the sales order API, you will see a header API of sales order, and then surely there will be a line API, right? And then including that, there will be other APIs, or sorry, other parts to this page. So if I look for parts, simple. So you can add dimensions when you are adding a new sales order. You can add sales order lines when you are adding a sales order. You can also add attachments, and the same API page is also exposed into the sales invoice, the credit memos, the orders, the purchase invoices, the journals. So I haven't get into the next step of it, and if needed, Rishikesh, let me know in the next meeting. We can quickly see a demo of it.
Sure.
But you should be able to attach a document using this API entity, which is available and directly exposed by Microsoft. Writes it back into the document attachment table automatically. Anything else? Anyone on this one? Okay. There are other questions, but we are running out of time, and I have a very important question, so we'll talk about these maybe next time. Okay.
I have
What
one
we
thing.
would like to go ahead, Keshav.
I have one thing regarding the question Rishikesh asked, like to convert
Okay.
base 64 directly to the document attachment. So I did this sometimes ago. If you want, then I can share my screen and show you.
If there is a link, you can send it to Rishikesh. I guess on the similar lines, we also did it a while ago, Keshav. I don't know you were there or not.
Yes. I was
But
reflecting
that
I did in 3 or 4 lines only. 3 or 4 lines
Ah.
of code.
Okay, so yeah, if you would like to connect to Rishikesh, that'll be great.
Okay.
And
Yeah, sure.
if you are there next week, we'll surely would like to see it on a share screen. I don't want to kind of take other people time.
Yeah,
But
sure.
if you're there next week, we would love to see it. I would actually love to see it, whatever you have done.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. quickly, any thoughts, anyone, and you can write it on chat if needed. Do we need to continue? Do we need to start talking about what's new in BC21, or most of you have seen it already by yourself because it's been a while as I was out for a while. If you haven't, then let me know on chat. And if you think that other than that, we have something else which you are interested in that we should be talking about, you can also add that into chat. And that'll help me to kind of, start thinking what we are doing going forward in these weeks. I am still behind my schedule for my personal understanding and learning on BC21. So I'll surely be doing that for myself. But if you guys are interested, we will do that like we do in every release. Otherwise, if you think that there is something else that is sorry, important for you as an individual, then you can also write that down. And we can talk about that next week. Okay. Anything else, anyone? Otherwise, you can drop me an email. You can contact me on all these social media platforms that are available. And if you're not able to think about what you would like to discuss next week, I see some yes and no's and other things on the chat. But let me know during the week, and then we'll start discussing that from the following week. I was in Summit in October. Did 6 sessions there. There are 2 interesting blogs, as in at least for me, that I have typed it. I have written them. One is around what happened on Summit, how things went in Summit, and the other one is around a new experience in my life due to a bad flight. So you can surely go to the homepage. There should be these 2: the summary of Dynamics Community Summit 2022 and a flight to remember. Okay. You will understand after reading this one that why I was back 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago from now, why we did not meet for 3 weeks. If you read the flight to remember, you'll understand why that happened. I don't want to get into details of it, but feel free to read it if you think that helps you in that discussion. And then we'll meet next week and we'll talk about whatever whatever feedbacks I'll get on during the week. Okay. So I'll leave you here with the flight from Mumbai to Delhi. See you then next week.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thanks, Saurabh.
Thanks, man.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
Thank
Saurabh.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you.